So
Okay. We can always start again or
yeah,
yeah.
you could cut that part off.
Okay.
Bloopers.
Yes.
Um,
Hi.
I'll kick us off.
Hi,
Hi,
Sydney.
everyone. My name is Sydney Jackson-Clockston. I'm the owner and founder of Citrine Unlimited, which is a coaching and consulting firm. We do a lot of leadership development and we empower our community. I particularly have an affinity for empowering women in the community. I feel like this world can be very cold and lonely sometimes. And so it's nice when we can come together and support one another. And then I am joined by the amazing Sarah. Sarah, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Sarah. Sarah Rimmel of Slow Integration Coaching. And yeah, I use she, they pronouns. I identify as BIPOC and queer and an adult child of an alcoholic. Yeah. And I'm really like interested in more healing, for ourselves and our community and more like well-being as like a fourth thought, when we think about workplace culture. So yeah. One of my principles and my vision is that our needs are met. So that really shapes a lot of the work I do.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to ask you too, Sarah, because even pre-retreat, you've been in business and I would want to say really not just talking the talk, but walking the talk, right? And like creating these intentional spaces and really helping to heal the community. Could you just share a little bit about your background and with like your business and where did this drive kind of come from to be supportive in that way?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my background is really in like nonprofits. I've worked in a lot of different sort of types of nonprofits from like child welfare to public health and then I worked in higher ed for a long time or higher education. And in those spaces, like I was always thinking about like health equity and like diversity, equity, inclusion was always a big piece and social justice and just advocating for our like the students and other clients, in places I worked. Um, and yeah, I mean, about like 8 years ago or 9 years ago, I just started getting really curious about like, the pieces around like burnout and like, even like social justice activism, how exhausting it was and just the toll it was having. I also like used to be very much a like, I need to do it all, like saying yes to everything and
Yeah.
and like trying to create all this change in the systems I was part of. And it was just like, it was just too much. And so I got kind of plugged into like, being curious about the body and like the mind body connection and the impact of like oppression on, and trauma on our, our bodies, mind, spirits, right? And so that kind of just over time has just like woven into like be really important to me is like, oh, there's this disconnect that, has happened because of, these systems around us and it has disconnected us from ourselves and each other. And so I just am doing, my own, it's really important to me, but also I think for so many of us to like start making those connections and doing that together. Um,
Yeah. So I have a question for you, and I know you were going to ask me something, but just when you were talking, it kind of just came up. So this disconnect, right? And you helping to facilitate and helping to support folks to reconnect themselves, reground themselves. I know a lot of times people have been, and the name's been around for a long time, right? So it's not like anything new that's just recently being created, but folks are just now becoming more aware of somatic practices. So can you kind of share just a tidbit of what exactly is somatic work? Because some folks watching this may have no idea at all about somatic, like what does that even mean? And then some people might be super familiar with it and may already be integrating it into their own practices, or working with like a therapist on it or another, healer in the community, in their community around it. So yeah.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So some of the best kind of explanations I've heard from others, are like that somatics is like a term that it exists now, like in this, like, and it's kind of a growing field, but the work has always been around, like the work of communities and people, being connected to each other, being, connected to healing practices, being connected to nature, moving and dancing and, kind of, whatever that may be, like that's always been a way that, communities have taken care of themselves and each other, right? And then, we can think of lots of different examples, of how communities have also, um, been punished and criminalized, and like those healing, those sort of like those deep practices have been like not allowed, and criminalized and and so it's really like somatics is like a coming back to that, it's again, it's this kind of in some ways like a co-opted term that like is referring to like old, longstanding like wisdom and if that makes sense, but it's like this now as like a term, it's like, oh yeah, we're very disconnected, our minds, our bodies, like we very much live from our head up, like like in very little like connection to like what are we actually feeling, sensing, knowing, how to, so yeah, I would say the term is really about being more like connected to our full self, right? And what that has looked like in my own process, and what has that looks like in like the somatic coaching that I do with folks, is like starting to even to just start building like start building somatic awareness. What am I feeling? What am I sensing? Like over time, when I first started doing that, it like probably took a good year to like start plugging in and tuning in and and actually being like, oh, I can now name and, these different types of emotions. I can name when I'm feeling X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
I can do something about it and I can take care of that. So yeah, I feel like I'm getting a little long-winded, but does that help?
Yeah, no, 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 that was perfect, and I really appreciated a couple of things you said because one, you talked about this, and that's very much what the Passion Over Perfection retreat is about, is how to reconnect with some of these things that are within us already. And we might just be so disconnected from them because of the way we were raised or the experiences we've had throughout life, or just not knowing, right? Knowing that these tools are available. So how can we reconnect with some of these things? I really appreciate one of my favorite quotes, and it's not my only favorite, I have a few, but one of my favorite quotes that really came up when you were talking was one actually by Albert Einstein. And I really appreciate it because the quote that he said was that the intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is the faithful servant. We created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. And I feel like that is so true to the experience that a lot of people in general, but especially women, we're very much told like be logical, you're too emotional, whatever might come up, right? Like that's not your place. Whatever narrative gets told, we're told over and over again. And so much so to the point that we perpetuate that, right? Generationally, we share that over and over again, maybe with our children or the children around us. And those gifts that we have are forgotten, that they're not a waste of time and energy, that in our lives, hand in hand, we need access to both intuition and we need access to logic and reason.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I would like to look at that quote, more. But yeah, it just is making me think too of another quote that I don't have in front of me, but essentially just speaking of like how much more processing capability there is out, in the rest of the body than just the mind, like the mind's processing and, ability to like be logical and I mean, like even just like the there's so much more access, in the rest of our body that actually can help us be more effective, communicate better, deal with conflict, all these things. So, yeah. And, I think about too, like in the sharing of like kind of using the term somatics and embodiment, I think for some people, like it can feel there can be like lots of different types of barriers, right? To that, to like kind of like going towards that. One, our culture, our workplaces don't really encourage that. Like we could talk for hours on this, right? Which we won't do, but like it can just, like our bodies are the site of so much, right? So much that we've carried. And so it can be, for some people, it's like, oh no, I don't want to open any of that up, like it's too much.
Yeah.
But it also can be, like we also can do it gently and we can do it slowly and we can do it, in whatever ways we need to do that. And in my experience, it was just like I had different, experiences where I was like overriding my needs over and over. And it was like, ultimately, it's like, I just slowly kept like being like, okay, I need to keep listening. I need to start listening. I need to like, keep kind of tuning to, like going towards this. And that's what I encourage, for any of us. It's just like, yeah, what are those small things that we can, keep doing to like maybe
Yeah.
listen a little bit more, to what we're needing. So yeah, I'll get off my soapbox, but
No, that's why you're an expert, right? Like, and an expert in terms of, I know this is all of the practices that we do during the retreat. It's all wisdom that I'm so grateful, and I know you're grateful, that has been passed down. So we're not saying we're the creators of anything. However, we do have knowledge around certain topics that can support the community, and that's what we're here to do, is to be a support for the community so that they can take the practices and then take them home and integrate them. And that's what I love about the Passion Over Perfection retreat too, is that we're not here trying to say, oh, you have to have us every single day in order to do this, or you have to go on a retreat every month in order. That's not the purpose of this. This is a chance to reset, to learn some new tools and practices, and to figure out what works for you, because what works for one person might not work for the other. So that's why we do a variety of different activities, everything from like a healing fire releasing ceremony to doing a nature bath to doing, breath work, all these different types of things that will be going on, and to actually educate people. It's because we want you to have the knowledge. Knowledge is power. We want you to have the knowledge on how to do this stuff in your own home and make it work for you throughout the year. 360, 65, 65, right? Yeah.
365. Yep. Yeah, no, I love that. And yeah, I love that. Sydney, will you share a little bit more about like, yeah, like what your intention has been like with the second year of doing this Passion Over Perfection retreat? I know you were planning to do this with your mom. So just would love to just have space to just share again anything else you want to name.
Yeah, so the Passion Over Perfection retreat, it started literally as a dream that I had. And I don't necessarily mean like a dream while I was sleeping, but I mean like a dream that I had years ago. And it probably was like 10 years ago. I was still, I think, in high school, maybe in college. And I was like, how cool would it be to like have a community of people come together and just like be able to be themselves? I know for me, I've always had, friendships and friends, but I've always been quirky. I'm neurodiverse, neurospicy. And so, that's just a quirk, and people have them, but it's not the norm. And so there were times in my life, not always, but there were times where I felt like I didn't fit in. Um, and I wanted people who maybe felt that way, like, something's just not working. I'm not fitting in. I don't know where to move. I feel stuck. There have been plenty of times that I've felt stuck in life. And I just wanted something to help address that. I also personally dealt with a lot of having self-confidence. You could ask people all the way back from even me being a little kid. I was always that like boisterous, personality, but my self-worth was in the garbage. It literally was in the trash. Like, I used to have terrible, and I still do. It's a practice, just like everything else. And that's why I was talking about like using the retreat as a way to teach some tools, because I talked about myself worse than I would talk to my dog. Like, it was that bad, right? I was like abusive to my own self. And I literally needed my own coaching and my own journey to start unlearning and relearning new ways to be with myself. And that's something else I noticed too, is a lot of people just can't be with themselves. They keep themselves so busy with work and distracted with TV and devices, like cell phones and iPads and conversations with others. Yeah, just they keep themselves so distracted that I have had some people who are like, "You went to dinner by yourself? How did you do that?" And I'm like, because I'm comfortable sitting with myself. Like, I know I can enjoy a nice meal on my own. I don't have to have another person with me. But that's what I want to encourage, is for people to be able to get to that point to where they can be confident and comfortable and happy with themselves and fulfilled in this life. I always tell my clients, I don't know what happened before or what's going to happen after this lifetime. I have my own beliefs and my own thoughts, but I have no guarantees to that. All I can tell you is I'm here right now with you. And so what's going to happen here and now while we're together? What's going to happen in this lifetime that I know for sure is happening right now. And so I try to take that lesson almost like a YOLO moment, like with a dose of reality, right? Like, I'm not just going out there and living reckless and careless, right? But I that's what I want other people to have, is this sense of like joy and fulfillment in their lives. And that's where this retreat came from. And then regarding, planning it with my mom and I had a wonderful experience together. We actually, she's a professor and she was at a conference, and I got to join her before the conference in Hawaii. And it was just a beautiful experience. And during that experience of us being together as a mother and daughter and getting to do something that a lot of mother and daughters don't always get to do, and spend time like that with each other, I was like, this is it. This has to be the next location for the Passion Over Perfection retreat. This space is one really that I treat with reverence, because I know that the islands of Hawaii, are very sacred and precious, and also have been misused and abused by capitalism and by colonization. And so, trying to be mindful, I had that thought in my head, but I was like, this is the space. Like, if I can find a place to host this retreat, and it's a space that's not exploitative and is actually going to be like supportive of the community, then I'll do it. And so really fortunate I was able to find a location. And unfortunately, my mom may or may not be able to join us. She was going to help lead some sessions, but she has her own diagnosis, medical diagnosis going on right now. And so she just couldn't commit to leading. She's a clinical social worker and therapist too. And so she had some really great insights to add as well. But you and I are going to do a phenomenal job. Like, I just know that the ladies are going to come and their lives are going to just be changed from this experience. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that, like when you asked, if I wanted to be involved, it really, well, one, yeah, like it's an opportunity to work with you and connect with you. But I think just also knowing like that how important it was, like, like to do this with your mom and how sweet that is, and just wanting to like continue to support that, like felt very special and feels very special to me. So I love that, like that all, again, just kind of we're all dealing with like, navigating all these different things.
Yeah.
How do we, continue to like, do what we can to like build community around that, build love
Yeah.
around that. And I think that's like what to me, like this is like an opportunity for is to do that and to also
Yeah.
have an experience in
Well,
a place and and yeah. So
Well, and that's something I was going to say too. A lot of folks initially were like, aren't you just going to cancel? And I was like, no. And I had to, because I was like, this is like, this is purposeful. Like, the work that's being done is so purposeful. And I was like, I have someone in mind. It was like, I already know who I'm going to reach out to. And you were the first person. I was like, people were like, oh, what about this person or that person? I was like, no, no, no. Like, thank you. If Sarah says no, I'll reach out to him, but I already got a person in mind. She would be perfect, or they would be perfect. Like, let's go. And I will say this, that also the reason I was able to keep moving forward, because it is life. And unfortunately, things happen and we have to keep moving forward. It's the way we move forward is what matters. And so I was able to use some of these tools that I've learned, and folks who attend the retreat will be learning, to be able to recenter myself.
Mhm.
You know, especially getting a diagnosis and having my own health stuff and just having life, right, happening. It was like, how in the chaos, how am I going to be able to focus and be able to do this? And I was able, with doing nature baths, with using breath work, with being in community, right? Reaching out to friends and you know, just letting them hold space for me. Things like that, I was able to put into place for myself. So I'm proof that it works. It really does make a difference, especially in times of crisis. You know, these tools really, really come and play too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Ooh, I can't wait. I can't wait for nature bath. And maybe we can just spend the last like, few moments and just like share just like high level like dates, where we're going. And yeah, you mentioned like a lot of the things that we're going to be exploring and playing with when we're there. There's also going to be a really cool photo shoot, flying goddess photo shoot that I'm very excited about, just like so yeah, anything else or yeah, what would you like to share just in terms of like
Yeah.
dates where
So the past, so this year's Passion Over Perfection retreat, it is happening in Hawaii, on the beautiful island of Oʻahu. Um, it is being held at the Windward Retreat Center, December. So the date that we kick off is going to be December 30th until January 4th. And it's going to be a wonderful time in terms of like what kind of activities we're doing. We're going to do a New Year's releasing fire ceremony. We're going to have a workshop on just tapping into your inner goddess. What does that even mean? What is your inner goddess? And so really that's about looking at your feminine energy and understanding even what is feminine versus masculine energy. What does that mean? Some people may not be familiar with that embodiment workshop. I know that's where you're going to really step in and shine as well, and doing some somatic work, and teaching us some of the awesome tools that you have. We're going to be doing a nature bath, which I'm really excited for, and really talk about how nature can be healing, even if it's just you, if you are able to take a walk around your city block, even if you don't live close to a park or to a natural site. How can just getting outside make a difference in your life? And then the photo shoot, which you mentioned, I am so excited. Y'all need to check out the website and you'll see some of these flying dress photo shoot photos that my mom and I actually took. Our photographer, she is amazing. She's been in the industry for over a decade, and she just does these really beautiful flying goddess flying dresses. She has those and she does them in nature, and it's just a beautiful memento and reminder of who you are. And so I wanted to make sure, and that's what happens at all of our Passion Over Perfection retreats, is a photo shoot. I wanted to make sure that everyone walked away with a reminder of how beautiful they are, how wonderfully made you are, and just how much of a badass you are. And this is that proof, to that, to remind you every time you look at those photos.
yeah, I love it. And they are like so, yeah, just so powerful and like beautiful, like the photos. And yeah. And yeah, and as you were talking, and also as you were talking about like, the inner goddess, or like what does that even mean? I love on the website you talk about how each one of us is a reflection of the divine, right? So like, yeah, so I think just like what I'm coming into this retreat with is just like wanting to like, yeah, decompress with each other, learn some skills for sure, play, just be ourselves and really just acknowledge, like have some space to like acknowledge and reflect on like all we do every single day, to live life, right? And to take care of
Yeah.
ourselves, each other. And really, I think I'm too hard on myself. Many of us are too hard on ourselves. So just a chance to like come together and really just like, yeah, embrace like like letting some of that go and just like, kind of savor like our lives, right? And
Yeah.
there's a quote that I do love that I remember. It's called, "We are the most ordinary miracle," that, it's like just
Wow.
right. Like we are the
Yeah.
miracle. So
Love-
yeah. And so I know that we have the website. We'll have that in it's for you to like check out more. Um, and we also have, the pricing and all of that on the website. I know, Sydney, if you want to add more to this, but I know like, it's an investment, right? And if you
Yeah.
share just a little bit more about like kind of like there's some payment plan options, there's some other ways
Yeah.
to just think of how to make it, as accessible as possible. Um,
Yeah, no, I know that was something that was important to both of us in the work that we do is how can we make things accessible and also recognizing that we are humans and we have our own, we have our expenses too. Going to Hawaii is not a small expense. It's an investment. And so definitely attending this retreat is an investment. And I frame it that way specifically because we choose as humans how to invest our time, who to invest our time with, and where to put our dollars. And so, a lot of times, especially as women, we tend to fall to the bottom of that list of things that are invested in. And so, definitely know that, we wanted to make sure that you all had access to be able to attend this. Um, and there was the consideration of, well, how can I make payments? Knowing that not everybody's going to be able to pay in full up front. So there are payment plans available. Definitely something that we can talk about individually outside of the website. If you're not seeing something that works for you, we can talk about that outside as well. We also offer the PayPal zero interest. PayPal has a digital credit card that folks can apply for. And what's really nice about that is any purchases over, I believe, $100, you have 6 months to pay it off with 0% interest. So I've worked with people before where they've paid like their deposit and they got that portion handled, but then they also are like, hey, I can pay this much, but then I need the rest to be kind of after the New Year's. And that's how we kind of finagle it is a mix between having a deposit up front and then using PayPal at the back end so that we still can get paid up front to take care of like housing and food and all that stuff. So we get those funds, but then you still have some time afterwards once you get back from the experience to pay it off with 0% interest.
Awesome. Awesome. And then there is also a scholarship that we are offering as well. So we
Yeah, so this is new this year. It is specifically geared towards folks who are in the helping professions, who work in DEIAJ spaces, and individuals who identify as social workers. And so that is available. Also, we recognize that a lot of local Hawaiians, are priced out of these experiences on their own island or islands, I should say. It's an island chain. So on their own islands. And so if you are someone who is in Hawaii and would love the opportunity to come to something like this, we wanted to make it accessible for you because we do recognize that you live in a space which is admired and revered for its beauty, and you often get cut out from being able to participate. Where you live. And so we definitely wanted to make sure that we opened up an opportunity for that. So yeah, that scholarship is new this year. And it is available. And we will, I know Sarah, you'll drop in the notes where folks can access that.
awesome. Cool. Cool. Well, yeah, great to like just be with you, Sydney, as always, and to share a little bit more about, this, both of our work and just like the intention with this particular retreat. We hope folks, will check it out if this is something that's possible for you. Definitely reach out, and because we know, flight prices will keep getting more expensive, and or just like reach out, check us out on, on online, and just it would be great to just, yeah, if you hear anything that you're like curious about, feel free to follow up, and yeah, I know we just send lots of care and love, and have a good day, and yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sarah. Hope you have a great rest of your day too. And I'm happy we got to do this and just connect with the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right.
All right, bye.
Bye.